So we're going to be doing a little bit of mixing and matching in this video here, mostly because I think that both of these trade stories are a little bit too short, and that I don't want to make an entire full-length commentary for either of them. So let's mush these two together, combine our Dallas Stars and LA Kings trade update in this video commentary over here. We're going to be talking about Dallas Stars forward Jason Robertson and the latest on him and his situation, as well as LA Kings defenseman and former top prospect Brandt Clarke. Because, to my surprise, and maybe to the equal surprise of some of y'all watching this video, there is a trade update in regards to Brandt Clarke that I think we can dive into in this video here. But let's start out by talking about Jason Robertson of the Dallas Stars. 26 years old, 6'3", 201, and he needs a contract past this upcoming year. He signed on till the end of 25-26, making $7.75 million, and for the most part, that's a reasonable deal. For a guy who was at one point a 100-point scorer who had dropped down to 80 points each in the last two seasons, I think 7.75 is pretty reasonable. But the problem is, Jason Robertson is 26 years old. You want to sign this guy to an extension, ideally, and you have to question how much he's really going to get. How much do you pay Jason Robertson after just handing out a $12 million AAV contract to fellow winger on the Dallas Stars, Mikko Rantanen, who is the most expensive player on the team with his 12 AAV. Tyler Seguin's making 9.8, Rupe Hintz is making 8.45, Wyatt Johnston's making 8.4, so you know Jason Robertson is going to go out there and demand a pretty big increase. With this in mind, let's dive into an article published by Jacob Billington on thehockeywriters.com on September 6th. It talks about how Lane Hutson is committed to the USA, Leanne Bichelle, fellow Dallas Star of Jason Robertson, has faced an Olympic ban, and it goes into some more NHL rumors. So let's dive into this right here. It talks about Leanne Bichelle. Yeah, we recognize that. Very strange situation there between Team Switzerland and Leanne Bichelle. But the Jason Robertson trade talks continue in the bottom of this article. Let's dive into this here. For a little while at the start of the offseason, Jason Robertson's name was everywhere. It seemed that if a trade was coming, it would come sooner rather than later. But now, there are talks of an extension. David Pagnotta of the Fourth Period reported that talks are picking up now that we have hit September. And Jeff Merrick ended up stating that the Stars will not let themselves get Marnered, meaning that they won't let him get to a point of leaving as a free agent or losing leverage in a trade scenario. Jason Robertson is set to becoming an RFA next offseason, and the Stars reportedly have an internal cap, which has been set by Mikko Rantanen. No player on the roster, Robertson included, is going to make more than Rantanen's $12 million. The Stars have been blessed with young talent and have done an excellent job of keeping the contracts reasonable and fitting everyone in. Part of the difficulty of the Stars' cap situation is the impending contract extension for Thomas Harley, who will command a significant raise. Now, yeah, of course, the Stars have done a pretty good job at fitting everybody in. They've got no state tax, so there is a pretty big advantage there. But Jason Robertson is in a spot where, as Jeff Merrick stated on the Dallas Stars podcast over here by DLLS Sports, the Stars will not let themselves get Marnered, where Jason Robertson is in control of his destiny, where he has essentially got both feet out the door, and he's saying to Dallas, if you guys want to get something from me, you can trade me to this team, that team, or whichever team. I'm going to sign an extension with that team, and y'all are just going to have to live with getting a measly return. That's absolutely not what I'm worth. Now, for what it's worth, I don't know if Jason Robertson is really that kind of a player to go down the Marner path. There have been some other unexpected names that went down similar avenues, like I'm thinking about Matthew Tkachuk with the Calgary Flames a few years ago, how he only really would have accepted a trade with a few teams and he didn't want to sign an extension with Calgary. He ended up getting traded to Florida and became a multi-time Stanley Cup champion, so I think that paid off for him. But for Jason Robertson, Who knows if he'd go down a similar avenue? If he thinks he's really worth more than Mikko Rantanen's $12 million in this growing cap environment, then maybe there will be some contention there of the internal cap and what Dallas has in store. But the bottom line here is, according to Jeff Merrick, the Dallas Stars are not going to let themselves get Marnered. They saw that situation in Toronto, and they're doing everything they can to try to avoid it. With this in mind, let's dive into the LA Kings and start talking about Brandt Clarke, a young right-handed defenseman whose spot in the LA lineup probably should be a little bit more guaranteed than it is. I say this because Brandt was an 8th overall pick back in 2021, drafted out of Slovakia during the shutdown OHL year, a guy who was so strong with the Ontario Reign in 23-24, point-per-game guy there as a 21-year-old defenseman, and a guy who had scored 33 points in limited minutes in 78 games the most recent year. He also had 2 goals in 6 games in the Stanley Cup playoffs against Edmonton. Clarke is in an interesting spot because his contract expires at the end of this upcoming season, 25-26, same with Jason Robertson, and as of right now, the guy doesn't have an extension. This is where we'll go into an article published by Josh Erickson on ProHockeyRumours.com that talks about how the LA Kings are reportedly in no rush to shop Brandt Clarke. A front office change in LA brought sweeping change to the Kings' blue line this summer. With Hall of Fame executive Ken Holland at the helm, the club lost their top left shot D-man in Gavrikov to the Rangers, and they also traded away Jordan Spence to the Senators for futures. Their replacements were a pair of declining but hardened top 4 fixtures, Cody Ceci and Brian Dumoulin, on the open market. But Brandt Clarke, the club's 8th overall pick in 2021, remains with LA as he enters the final season of his ELC. That's despite reporting that the LA Kings were open to moving him at last season's trade deadline in their pursuit of a forward upgrade. They ended up not making a move large enough to require parting ways with him, and of course, those ideations of a trade were under a previous regime. The article then dives into the entire story of Brandt Clarke, how he ended up going to Slovakia, and how he was a very good young prospect, doing very good things in the CHL. His NHL debut was a little bit later, and eventually he was pretty good with the AHL team. While Brandt Clarke made the team out of camp last year and never looked back, he was still used rather sparingly, despite top righty Drew Doughty missing a good portion of the season due to an ankle injury. Concerns about Brandt Clarke's individual defensive acumen limited his playing time to just 16-17 per game, although he was still relatively involved physically with 121 blocks. He churned out 33 points in 78 games, fine production for that limited usage, and posted good possession numbers in sheltered minutes with a +13 rating and a 54% Corsi 4. As he enters a contract year, there should be more opportunities for him. Even if he doesn't necessarily slot in above Ceci on the team's depth chart, he should get the additional power play minutes that Spence is vacating, and realistically, his general mobility should make him a candidate to leapfrog the newcomer and begin the season as LA's number 2 on the right side behind Doughty. That roster math plus a new brain trust in place has likely bought Brandt Clarke some time to make a lasting impression on the Kings brass, while GM Ken Holland told RG's James Murphy that Clarke is a really talented guy with a bright future. He neither committed to a change of scenery nor long-term belief. Now we've got to figure out where it's going. I think the best way is to, I know him, but I don't know him. You know what I mean? Yeah, okay, I honestly don't really get it, Ken Holland, unfortunately, but still, this is our update. Brandt Clarke, once a pretty meaningful trade piece on the market back in March, is no longer in a spot where that seems to be the plan. At least for now. We'll have to wait and see what the LA Kings have in store for this guy, and if things don't get off to a good start for Brandt, there could be the possibility that he enters the trade market once again. With that in mind, though, I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel about these trade updates with Jason Robertson and the fact that Dallas doesn't want to get Marnered, and with young right-handed defenseman Brandt Clarke playing for a team that just didn't give him as many opportunities as he probably deserves so far? Thoughts in the comment section below about both of these guys. The articles will be linked in the description. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.